Maya thought she had won the roommate lottery when Zeph moved in 6 months ago. After posting her roommate wanted ad online, she got dozens of replies from people who seemed either completely crazy or totally broke. One guy wanted to turn the living room into a reptile habitat. Another woman insisted on conducting midnight yoga sessions while chanting loudly. Maya was starting to think she'd have to live alone forever and eat nothing but instant noodles to afford the rent. Then, Zeph showed up at her door. Tall, pale, with the most unusual violet eyes Maya had ever seen. They spoke in this formal, polite way that reminded her of someone from an old movie when Maya asked for references. Zeph handed her a folder with perfect credit scores, glowing recommendations, and bank statements that made Maya's jaw drop. This person had more money than she'd ever seen in her life. Yet they wanted to live in her tiny two-bedroom apartment in the middle of the city. I prefer simple living arrangements, Zeph had explained when Maya asked why someone with their obvious wealth would want such a modest place. Large spaces make me uncomfortable. That should have been Maya's first clue that something was different about her new roommate. But she was so relieved to find someone clean, quiet, and financially responsible that she didn't ask too many questions. Besides, weird rich people were still better than the alternative of living with someone who left dirty dishes in the sink for weeks. The first few months were like a dream. Zeph paid rent 3 days early every month, never hogged the bathroom, and somehow made the apartment smell like fresh flowers without using any air fresheners. Maya could identify. They kept their rooms spotless and rarely made any noise except for some soft humming sounds at night. That Maya actually found soothing. It was like having the world's most considerate ghost for a roommate. Zeph's eating habits were a bit odd, though. They only ate raw vegetables, and not just any vegetables. Everything had to be arranged in perfect geometric patterns on their plate. Carrots cut into precise triangles, broccoli arranged in spirals, bell peppers sliced into perfect hexagons. Maya once joked that their dinner looked like a math problem, and Zeph had given her such a serious look that she never brought it up again. There were other small things too. Zeph never watched TV, claiming the flickering lights gave them headaches. They took showers at exactly the same time every day and used this strange soap that smelled like nothing Maya could identify, but somehow made the whole bathroom feel cleaner than it had ever been. In those eyes, sometimes Maya would catch Zeph staring at nothing, and their violet eyes would seem to glow slightly in the dim light. But Maya was a college student working 3 part-time jobs just to afford her half of the rent. She didn't have time to worry about her roommate's quirks as long as they weren't causing problems. In fact, living with Zeph was so peaceful that Maya started getting better grades and sleeping more soundly than she had in years. That all changed on a Tuesday morning in March. Maya woke up feeling groggy and confused. Something was different about the light in her room, but she couldn't figure out what. When she stumbled toward the kitchen for her usual morning coffee, she noticed the air felt thick and strange, like breathing through cotton. There was also this sweet, almost floral smell that made her feel dizzy. She was halfway to the coffee maker when she noticed the front door. Where there should have been wood and metal, there was instead what looked like a wall of crystal, clear, shimmering, and completely solid. Maya reached out to touch it, and the surface felt warm and slightly vibrating, like it was alive. "What the heck?" she muttered, running her fingers along the crystal barrier. It covered the entire door frame, sealing them inside the apartment completely. No gaps, no cracks, nothing. It was like someone had grown a crystal wall overnight. That's when she heard footsteps behind her. Maya turned around and nearly jumped out of her skin. Standing in the hallway was Zeph, but not the neat, composed Zeph she was used to. This version looked like they hadn't slept in days. Their usually perfect hair was messy and wild, sticking up in odd directions. Their clothes were wrinkled, and there were these strange, glowing patches on their skin that pulsed with a soft purple light. But it was their eyes that really freaked Maya out. Those violet eyes were now glowing like tiny neon signs, and when Zeph looked at her, Maya felt this weird tingling sensation all over her body. "I apologize, Maya," Zeph said, but their voice sounded different too. It had this musical quality now, like they were speaking and humming at the same time. I did not anticipate this biological cycle occurring so soon. Maya stared at them, her brain trying to process what she was seeing. Zeph, what happened to our door? And why do you look like you stuck your finger in an electrical socket? Zeph moved closer, and Maya noticed they were walking differently too, more fluid, almost like they were floating slightly above the ground. The sweet smell in the air got stronger, making Maya's head spin. We are now in what you might call a containment situation, Zeph continued in that strange, musical voice. The barrier is a protective measure. It will ensure that neither of us comes to harm. During this process, what process? Maya's voice came out higher than usual. Zeph, you're scaring me. What's going on? Zeph stopped a few feet away from her, and Maya could see that the glowing patches on their skin were actually moving, swirling in slow, hypnotic patterns. When they spoke again, their voice was gentler, almost apologetic. Maya, I have not been entirely truthful with you about my origins. I am not from Portland, Oregon. As I indicated on my rental application, I am from a planet called Zirion Prime, located in what you would call the Andromeda Galaxy. Maya blinked, then blinked again. I'm sorry. What now? I am what you would term an extraterrestrial being, an alien, if you prefer the colloquial term. The room started spinning. Maya grabbed onto the kitchen counter to steady herself. This is a joke, right? You're pulling some kind of elaborate prank because it's April Fool's or something. But even as she said it, Maya knew it wasn't a joke. The crystal barrier covering their door, the glowing skin, those eyes that seemed to see right through her. All the little weird things about Zeph over the past 6 months suddenly made perfect sense. I understand this is difficult to process, Zeph said, taking another step closer. But I need you to listen carefully. My species experiences what you might call mating season, though it is quite different from what Earth animals experience. This biological cycle occurs every 7 of your Earth years and lasts approximately 1 of your months. Maya felt like she might throw up. Mating season. Are you saying you want to, with me? No, not that kind of mating, Zeph said quickly, holding up their hands. Those glowing patches pulsed brighter. It is more complex than physical reproduction. My kind forms deep emotional and mental bonds during this time. But the process makes us unstable, potentially dangerous to other species if not properly contained. Maya looked back at the crystal barrier covering their door. So you trapped us in here together. For a month, my body created the containment field automatically when the cycle began. It is a protective instinct. I cannot control it, and I cannot remove it until the cycle is complete. The sweet smell in the air was making Maya feel weird. Not sick, exactly, but like her thoughts were moving through thick honey. She shook her head, trying to clear it. Okay, let me get this straight. You're an alien. You're going through some kind of space puberty. And now we're locked in this apartment together for the next month while you... What exactly? Zeph's glowing eyes looked almost sad. While I try very hard not to accidentally hurt you, Maya, and while you try very hard not to trigger any of my biological responses that might make this situation worse for both of us. Maya sank down onto the couch, her legs feeling shaky. This was definitely not how she planned to start her Tuesday. She looked up at Zeph, who was still standing there looking like a beautiful, glowing mess. Well, she said finally, I guess this explains why you never ate pizza with me. The first thing Maya learned about living with an alien during their mating season was that nothing in her apartment would ever be in the same place twice. She woke up on Wednesday morning to find all her furniture had been moved. Her couch was now in the center of the room, facing the kitchen. Her coffee table had been turned upside down and stacked on top of her bookshelf. Even her houseplants had been relocated into what looked like some kind of spiral pattern. Around the living room, Zeph, Maya called out, stepping carefully around. A lamp that was now sitting in the middle of the hallway. What happened to my stuff? Zeph emerged from their room looking even more disheveled than the day before. The glowing patches on their skin were brighter now, and their hair seemed to be defying gravity in several directions at once. When they saw Maya's confused expression, they looked genuinely embarrassed. I apologize, Zeph said in that musical voice that made Maya's teeth tingle. My species has a strong nesting instinct during this time. I tried to resist, but my body moved the furniture while I was sleeping. I was not conscious of the action. Maya stared at her upside-down coffee table. You rearranged my entire living room in your sleep. It appears so. Yes. Maya rubbed her temples. She could feel a headache coming on, and that sweet floral smell was getting stronger. Okay, so that's a thing now. What else should I know about this mating season situation? Zeph sat down on the floor, which was apparently where they preferred to be now since all the chairs were stacked in corners. There are several behavioral changes you should be aware of for your safety and mine. Maya grabbed a notebook from her backpack. If she was going to survive a month locked up with an alien going through space puberty, she was going to take notes. Shoot. First rule: avoid sudden movements. My reflexes are heightened during this cycle. Quick motions might trigger defensive responses. Maya wrote that down. Define defensive responses. I might accidentally throw you across the room. Maya looked up from her notebook. Accidentally? I would feel terrible about it afterward. That's reassuring. Maya kept writing. What else? Second rule: do not maintain direct eye contact for more than 3 seconds. Extended eye contact during this period can be interpreted as a challenge or an invitation, neither of which would be appropriate given our situation. Maya immediately looked away from Zeph's glowing violet eyes. Got it? No staring contests. What's rule 3? Under no circumstances should you touch the luminescent areas on my skin. Zeph gestured to the swirling purple patches on their arms and neck. Physical contact with those regions would be problematic. Problematic how? Zeph was quiet for a long moment. It would create a biochemical reaction that would be difficult to reverse. You might find yourself permanently affected by my pheromones. Maya's pen stopped moving. You're what now? The scent you have been detecting. It is a chemical signal my body produces during this cycle. Prolonged exposure may cause changes in your behavior and thought patterns. Maya sniffed the air. That sweet, floral smell was definitely getting stronger, and she had been feeling weird since yesterday. Not sick, exactly, but like her brain was wrapped in cotton. What kind of changes? You may find yourself organizing objects into geometric patterns. You might develop an urge to hum in harmony with my vocalizations. Your sleep cycle may adjust to match mine. Nothing dangerous, but potentially permanent if the exposure continues for the full cycle. Maya looked around the living room at the spiral pattern of houseplants she hadn't noticed before, but they were actually arranged quite beautifully. The symmetry was almost hypnotic. She shook her head hard, trying to clear her thoughts. Is there anything I can do to protect myself? Stay as far away from me as possible. Avoid enclosed spaces where the pheromone concentration is highest. And try not to breathe too deeply. Maya laughed, but it came out a little hysterical. Try not to breathe deeply in my own apartment for a month while trapped inside with you? I understand the situation is not ideal. The temperature in the apartment suddenly spiked. Maya felt sweat break out on her forehead as the air around them became uncomfortably warm. Then, just as quickly, it dropped to almost freezing. She shivered and pulled her hoodie tighter. What was that? Zeph looked apologetic again. My body is attempting to regulate the environment. The temperature fluctuations will continue throughout the cycle as my system searches for optimal conditions. Maya added pack warm clothes and summer clothes to her mental survival list. Anything else I should know? The auditory emissions will likely increase in complexity over the coming days. You mean the humming? As if on cue, Zeph began making a low, melodious sound that seemed to come from deep in their chest. It wasn't quite humming and wasn't quite singing. The sound vibrated through the walls and floor, making Maya's whole body tingle. Without thinking, she found herself humming along. She stopped immediately when she realized what she was doing. Oh no, it's already happening. Isn't it? The pheromone thing? Zeph's expression grew concerned. Perhaps. How are you feeling? Maya took stock of her body and mind. The headache was gone, replaced by a strange sense of calm. Her vision seemed sharper somehow, and she could swear she was seeing colors that didn't exist yesterday. Most disturbing of all, when she looked at the chaos of rearranged furniture. Part of her brain was already figuring out how to improve the spiral pattern. I feel different, she admitted, like my brain is running on a different frequency. I am sorry, Maya. I had hoped the effects would take longer to manifest. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message. She picked it up to see several missed calls and messages from her sister Rebecca. Haven't heard from you in 2 days. Everything okay? Call me back. Maya, seriously. Where are you? Maya stared at the messages. Had it really been 2 days? It felt like yesterday that she'd discovered the crystal barrier on her door. Time seemed to be moving differently inside the apartment. She started to text back, then stopped. What was she supposed to say? Sorry, can't talk. Trapped in an apartment with alien roommate who's going through mating season, Rebecca would have. Her committed. My family is worried about me, Maya said. I cannot remove the barrier until the cycle is complete, Zeph replied. But perhaps you could tell them you are taking a vacation, a retreat of some kind? Maya looked at her phone again. She had 17 missed calls from work, 12 from her sister, and 5 from her best friend Alex. Her whole life was outside that crystal barrier, and she was stuck inside watching her brain slowly change into something alien. The humming sound started again, and this time Maya didn't try to stop herself from joining in. The harmony they created together was actually quite beautiful, and it made the temperature fluctuations feel less jarring. When the song ended naturally, she realized she felt better than she had in months. That scared her more than anything else that had happened so far. Zeph, she said quietly, what if I don't want to go back to normal after this is over? Zeph's glowing eyes met hers for exactly 3 seconds, before they both looked away. That, Zeph said, is precisely what I am afraid of. By Thursday morning, Maya realized that Zeph's mating season wasn't just affecting their apartment. It was affecting the entire building. She first noticed it when she heard singing coming from upstairs. Not just any singing, but a hauntingly beautiful melody that seemed to harmonize perfectly with the humming sounds Zeph had been making all night. Maya pressed her ear to the ceiling and listened as Mr. Peterson, the grumpy 70-year-old man who usually yelled at kids for making noise, sang in a voice she didn't know he possessed. Zeph, Maya called softly, not wanting to startle them. I think we have a problem. Zeph emerged from the bathroom, where they had spent the last hour arranging Maya's shampoo bottles into increasingly complex geometric patterns. The glowing patches on their skin were pulsing in rhythm with some internal beat, and their hair was now defying physics in ways that made Maya's eyes water. What kind of problem? Zeph asked, tilting their head in that bird-like way that was becoming more pronounced each day. Listen. They both stood quietly in the living room. Above them, Mr. Peterson was still singing. To their left, the couple next door had started having what sounded like an argument. But Maya quickly realized they were arguing in perfect rhyming couplets. To their right, she could hear Mrs. Rodriguez humming while she apparently rearranged furniture based on the scraping sounds coming through the walls. Oh dear, Zeph said quietly. This is unexpected. Your pheromones are affecting the whole building, aren't they? Zeph nodded, looking genuinely distressed. It appears my biochemical emissions are more potent than anticipated. The ventilation system must be circulating them throughout the structure. Maya walked to the window and looked down at the street. Everything appeared normal outside, but inside their building, she could see people moving around in ways that seemed oddly coordinated. A woman on the 2nd floor was watering her plants in a spiral pattern. A man on the 4th floor was doing what looked like a very slow, graceful dance while cooking breakfast. How far does this effect extend? I am not certain. Distance and barriers should reduce the potency, but in an enclosed building. A loud thump from upstairs interrupted Zeph's explanation. Then another thump, then rhythmic thumping that sounded suspiciously like dancing. Maya's phone buzzed. She had a text from her downstairs neighbor Tony. Hey, you hear that music? It's amazing. I've been composing symphonies all night. Never knew I could do that. Another text, this one from the woman across the hall. Did you rearrange your furniture? I had this sudden urge to feng shui my entire apartment. It looks incredible now. Maya showed Zeph the messages. They don't seem upset about it. That is both encouraging and concerning, Zeph replied. If they are not distressed, it means the pheromones are creating pleasant effects. However, it also means the influence is stronger than I calculated. Maya was about to respond when she noticed something that made her freeze. Her cat, Whiskers, was sitting by the sealed front door. This was the same cat who usually hid under the bed whenever Zeph was around. The cat who had never shown any interest in her alien roommate at all. Now Whiskers was sitting perfectly still, staring at the crystal barrier with complete focus. As Maya watched, the cat began to purr, but not a normal purr. This was a deep, resonant sound that matched the harmonic frequency of Zeph's humming exactly. Even my cat? Zeph knelt down next to Whiskers, careful not to touch the animal. Cats are more sensitive to biochemical changes than humans. She is likely experiencing the effects more intensely than your neighbors. Whiskers turned to look at Zeph, and Maya swore she saw recognition in the cat's eyes. Not just recognition, but understanding. Like Whiskers finally knew what Zeph was and was completely okay with it. This is getting out of hand, Maya said, though she had to admit the building had never sounded more peaceful. The usual sounds of arguing, loud televisions, and slamming doors had been replaced by harmonious humming, gentle movements, and what sounded like creative projects happening in every apartment. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed it was her. Sister Rebecca. Maya stared at the phone, knowing she had to answer, but having no idea what to say. She couldn't exactly explain that she was trapped in her apartment with an alien, whose pheromones were turning their entire building into some kind of harmonious collective. Hello, Maya answered, trying to sound normal. Maya, finally, where have you been? I've been calling for days. Sorry, I've been busy with a project. What kind of project? You missed work. You're not answering texts. Mom is worried sick. Maya looked at Zeph, who was now sitting on the floor creating intricate patterns with her scattered magazines. The concentration on their face was intense, and the patterns they were making were actually quite beautiful. It's hard to explain, Maya said. I'm working on something with my roommate. It's complicated. Is everything okay? You sound different. Maya paused. She did sound different. Her voice was calmer, more measured. Even her thoughts felt clearer. Despite the bizarre circumstances, I'm fine, Rebecca. Actually, I'm better than fine. That's what worries me. You're never the zen about anything. In the background of the call, Maya could hear Rebecca's baby crying. It was a harsh, discordant sound that made Maya wince. How had she ever found normal human noises tolerable? The crying seemed so chaotic compared to the gentle harmonies filling her apartment. Maya, are you there? Yeah, sorry. Listen, I need to go. I'll call you back in a few days, okay? A few days. Maya, what's going on? I just need some time to figure things out. Don't worry about me. Maya hung up before Rebecca could ask more questions. The silence that followed felt heavy with implications. You are changing more rapidly than I expected, Zeph observed without looking up from their magazine mosaic. Is that bad? I do not. No. My species has never undergone this cycle in such close proximity to humans before. You are an experiment, whether we intended it or not. Maya sat down across from Zeph, automatically arranging herself so that her legs formed a triangle that complemented the pattern they were creating. She didn't consciously decide to do this. It just felt right. What if this is good? She asked. Look around. Everyone in the building seems happier, more creative, more peaceful. Maybe your pheromones aren't a problem. Maybe they're a solution. Zeph finally looked up, their glowing eyes meeting Maya's for exactly 3 seconds. A solution to what? To being human, Maya said, and immediately felt shocked by her own words. Where had that come from? Before Zeph could respond, they heard a knock at their crystal barrier. Not a normal knock, but a rhythmic tapping that seemed to be in code. Maya and Zeph looked at each other, then carefully approached the sealed door. Hello? Maya called out. It's Mr. Peterson from upstairs, came a voice. but it was unlike the gruff tone Maya was used to. Mr. Peterson sounded harmonious. "I brought you something." Maya looked through the crystal and saw the old man standing in the hallway with a plate of food. But it wasn't just any food. He had arranged vegetables in the same geometric patterns that Zeph preferred, cut into precise shapes and organized in spirals and fractals. "I don't know why," Mr. Peterson continued, "but I woke up this morning knowing exactly how to prepare. It's for your friend, the one who's been making such beautiful music." Maya turned to Zeph, whose expression had gone from concern to amazed. "They understand," Zeph whispered. "Somehow. They understand what I need." Maya realized then that this wasn't just about pheromones or alien biology. Something much deeper was happening in their building. The barriers between different forms of life were dissolving, and everyone was becoming part of something larger. The question was, did Maya want to resist this transformation or embrace it? Looking at the peace on Zeph's face and feeling the calm certainty in her own mind, Maya thought she already knew the answer. Maya woke up on day 15 to find Zeph sitting in the center of the living room, surrounded by what looked like a shrine made entirely of household objects. Her books were stacked in perfect spirals, kitchen utensils were arranged in star patterns, and every piece of clothing she owned had been folded into geometric shapes and placed with mathematical precision around the room. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was that Maya looked at this chaos and thought it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. "Zeph," she called softly, not wanting to disturb whatever was happening. Zeph turned to look at her, and Maya gasped. Their eyes weren't just glowing anymore. They were swirling with colors that didn't have names, and when they looked at her, Maya felt like they could see straight into her soul. "The time has come," Zeph said. But their voice was different now. It wasn't just musical anymore. It was like hearing harmony and melody and rhythm all at once, coming from a person who had become something more than human. "Time for what? For you to understand what this cycle truly means, and for me to tell you why my body chose you." Maya sat down on the floor across from Zeph, automatically positioning herself to complete the pattern of objects around them. She didn't question this impulse anymore. Over the past 2 weeks, she had stopped fighting the changes in her mind and started embracing them. Her thoughts were clearer now, her emotions more balanced. She could see patterns in everything, from the way light moved across the walls to the rhythm of her own heartbeat. "I thought mating season was about reproduction," Maya said. Zeph shook their head, and the movement sent ripples of color through their hair. "For my species, reproduction is not physical. We do not create offspring the way humans do. Instead, we create bonds, deep, permanent connections between consciousness." Maya felt something flutter in her chest. Not romantic love, but something deeper and more complex. "What kind of bonds?" "When my people reach maturity, we must find another being with whom we can share our essence. Someone who can understand us completely and accept us fully. Only then can we become whole." Zeph reached toward Maya, stopping just short of touching her hand. The glowing patches on their skin pulsed brighter. "My body created the containment field because it recognized you as my potential bondmate. Not romantic partner, but something far more significant, a true companion of the soul." Maya stared at Zeph's hand, so close to hers that she could feel the warmth radiating from their skin. "Is that why I've been changing?" "Yes. The bonding process requires both parties to evolve. You have been adapting to understand my consciousness, while I have been learning to comprehend your humanity." Maya thought about the past 2 weeks, the way her perception had shifted, how she could now see beauty in mathematical patterns and find peace in harmonic vibrations, how she had stopped missing her old life and started feeling like this apartment, this situation, this strange new reality was exactly where she belonged. "What happens if we complete the bond?" Zeph was quiet. "For a long moment, we become connected permanently. You would gain some of my abilities. Enhanced perception, longer lifespan, the ability to communicate across vast distances. I would gain your emotional depth, your creativity, your very human way of finding meaning in chaos. And if we don't complete it, the cycle will end in 13 days regardless, the containment field will dissolve, and you will return to your normal life. Most of the changes you have experienced will fade over time. Maya looked around the apartment that had become their shared world. The thought of going back to her old life, of returning to a reality where everything felt flat and colorless compared to what she was experiencing now, made her feel hollow inside. "There's something else, isn't there?" she asked. "Something you haven't told me." Zef's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "I'm not just any member of my species, Maya. I'm what you might call royalty, the child of our planetary leaders." Maya blinked. "You're an alien princess, technically, though. Your gender concepts do not translate perfectly to my species. I was sent to Earth not just for cultural exchange, but because I was fleeing an arranged bonding that would have been politically advantageous, but emotionally devastating." Maya felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. "That's why you had so much money, why you chose to live in my tiny apartment instead of some mansion. I wanted to experience what it meant to live simply, to choose my own path. When I met you, when I saw how you struggled to pay your bills but still took time to water the plants in the building lobby, how you left encouraging notes for your neighbors, how you treated me with kindness without knowing anything about my background, my subconscious recognized you as someone I could truly bond with." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes, though she wasn't sad. She was overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Zef was telling her. "So this whole time, while I thought I was just helping you through some alien biological process, you were actually falling in platonic love with me?" "We were falling in platonic love with each other," Zef corrected. "The process requires mutual recognition. Your consciousness has been reaching toward mine just as mine has been reaching toward yours." Maya realized this was true. Over the past 2 weeks, she had felt more understood, more seen than ever before in her life. Not romantically, but in a way that was deeper and more satisfying than any relationship she'd ever had. "If we complete the bond," Maya asked, "what happens to your responsibilities on your home planet?" "I would be choosing my own path over my family's expectations. There would be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Zef's expression grew. "Sad. I would likely be exiled, unable to return home. My family would have to choose a different heir." Maya felt the weight of this decision settling over both of them. Zef wasn't just asking her to accept a permanent bond with an alien being. They were asking her to be worth giving up an entire world for. "Zef," Maya said softly, "I need you to know something. These past 2 weeks, even with all the chaos and confusion, have been the happiest of my life. I feel like I've been sleepwalking through my existence, and you woke me up." Zef's eyes brightened. "You have awakened me as well, Maya, for the first time in my life. I understand what it means to choose connection over duty, love over obligation." Maya looked at her hand, still hovering inches from Zef's. "If we do this, there's no going back, no going back." Zef confirmed. Maya thought about her sister, her family, her old job, her old life. Then she thought about the peace she felt in this transformed apartment, the harmony she'd found with not just Zef but with all their neighbors who had been touched by this strange magic. She thought about the possibility of spending the rest of her life exploring the universe through Zef's eyes, while showing them the beauty of human experience through hers. "Okay," Maya said, and slowly reached out to place her hand in Zef's glowing palm. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded into light and color and sensation beyond anything Maya had ever imagined. She felt Zef's consciousness merging with hers, their memories becoming shared experiences, their emotions blending into something new and unprecedented. And in that moment of perfect connection, Maya knew she had found her home. Maya opened her eyes to sunlight streaming through her apartment windows. Real sunlight, not the strange, shifting light that had filled their sealed world for the past month. She sat up slowly, her body feeling different in ways she was still discovering. The crystal barrier was gone. She could see her front door, normal wood and metal, slightly ajar with fresh air flowing through the crack. The sounds of the city filtered in through the windows, cars honking, people talking, dogs barking. all the chaotic noise of regular human life that she had forgotten existed. But Maya could hear something else now too. Underneath all that surface noise, she could detect patterns, rhythms and harmonies hidden in the urban symphony that her old ears never would have noticed. It was like someone had given her a new sense along with her old ones. "Good morning," came a familiar voice behind her. Maya turned to see Zeph emerging from the kitchen, looking more like their old self but somehow fundamentally changed. Their skin no longer glowed, but it seemed to shimmer slightly in the morning light. Their hair had returned to normal, but their eyes still held depths of color that shifted when the light hit them. "Just right. How long was I out?" Maya asked. 18 hours. The bonding process requires significant rest afterward. Zeph handed her a cup of coffee prepared exactly the way she liked it. Though she had never told them her preferences, now they just knew. Maya took a sip and realized she could taste things differently too. The coffee had layers of flavor she'd never noticed before, complex notes that created their own harmonic patterns on her tongue. "Is it over? The mating season? Complete?" Zeph said, settling down beside her on the couch that had somehow returned to its original position. "My biological cycle has concluded successfully." Maya looked at her hands. They looked the same as always, but when she concentrated, she could see tiny sparkles of light dancing across her skin. "Am I still human?" "You are still you," Zeph replied gently. "But you are also more than you were before, as am I." Maya stood up and walked to the mirror hanging by the front door. Her reflection looked normal, but when she stared into her own eyes, she could see flecks of violet that definitely hadn't been there a month ago. And was it her imagination, or did she look younger somehow? "The enhanced lifespan thing," Maya said. "How enhanced are we talking?" "Instead of approximately 80 Earth years, you can expect to live closer to 300. Maya gripped the edge of the mirror frame. 300 years, is that distressing to you? Maya thought about it a month ago. The idea of living for 3 centuries would have terrified her. But now, with her mind expanded and her perception heightened, 300 years felt like barely enough time to explore all the wonders she could now sense in the world around her. "No," she said finally, "it's exciting." Her phone buzzed with a text message, dozens of them. Actually, all from her sister Rebecca. "Where are you?" "It's been a month, Maya. I'm calling the police. Answer your phone right now." Maya stared at the messages, her new understanding clashing with her old life. How was she supposed to explain to her family that she had spent the last month bonding with an alien and was now permanently changed? "They are worried about you," Zeph observed, somehow sensing her thoughts. That was new too. They could feel each other's emotions now, not constantly, but when the feelings were strong enough. "I have to call Rebecca," Maya said. "But what do I tell her?" "Perhaps a version of the truth." Maya dialed her sister's number. Rebecca answered on the first ring. "Maya, oh my God, where have you been?" "I was about to file a missing persons report." "I'm okay, Rebecca. I'm sorry I disappeared like that. I was going through something complicated." "Complicated how?" "You missed Mom's birthday. You haven't been to work in a month. Your boss said if you don't show up this week, you're fired." Maya looked around her transformed apartment, then at Zeph, who was quietly rearranging her books back into normal, non-geometric patterns. The idea of returning to her old job, sitting in a cubicle processing insurance claims, felt impossible. Now, like trying to squeeze herself back into clothes she'd outgrown. "I think I need a career change," Maya said. "A career change?" "Maya, you can't just vanish for a month and then decide to change your entire life." But that was exactly what Maya had done. And looking at Zeph, seeing the contentment on their face, feeling the deep sense of rightness in her own chest, she knew it had been the right choice. "Rebecca, what if I told you I'd found something that made me truly happy for the first time in my life?" There was a long pause. "I'd say I want to meet whatever or whoever it is that's made you sound like a completely different person." Maya smiled. "Actually, I'd love for you to meet them, but you have to promise to keep an open mind." After she hung up, Maya realized she was nervous about introducing her family to Zeph. Not because she was ashamed of their relationship, but because she wasn't sure how to explain it. They weren't romantic partners, but they were something deeper than friends. They were bonded companions to consciousness that had chosen to intertwine permanently. "Are you worried they will not accept me?" Zeph asked. "I'm worried they won't understand." Maya replied, "This is all pretty far outside normal human experience." Zeph smiled, and Maya felt their amusement through their connection. "Perhaps we can ease them into it gradually. I have become quite skilled at appearing normal when necessary." Over the next week, Maya slowly reintegrated with the outside world. She quit her job, which was surprisingly easy since she no longer cared about the security it provided. She started a blog called Unexpected Roommate Adventures where she wrote about the funny and strange aspects of living with someone from a very different culture. She didn't mention the alien part, but her posts about cultural differences and learning to live harmoniously with someone completely unlike yourself struck a chord with readers. The blog took off quickly. Within 2 weeks, she had thousands of followers and companies reaching out about sponsorship deals. Maya realized she had found her calling as a writer, something she never would have discovered if she hadn't been forced to find creative ways to process her experience. Zeph, meanwhile, began teaching music lessons to the neighborhood kids. They had a gift for helping children find their natural rhythms and harmonies, and parents were amazed at how quickly their kids improved under Zeph's instruction. No one questioned Zeph's unusual teaching methods or their formal way of speaking. They just saw results. The other residents of their building had returned to mostly normal behavior. But Maya noticed lasting changes. Mr. Peterson still hummed while he worked in his garden. The couple next door resolved their arguments more creatively. Mrs. Rodriguez had started a community art project in the lobby where everyone contributed geometric patterns to a massive collaborative mural. It was as if Zeph's presence had permanently raised the harmony level of their entire building. When Rebecca finally came to visit, Maya was nervous all morning, but Zeph had prepared carefully, dimming their natural luminescence and practicing casual conversation. When Maya introduced them as her very good friend and roommate from out of town, Rebecca seemed charmed by Zeph's polite mannerisms and obvious devotion to Maya's well-being. "I've never seen you this happy," Rebecca said privately while Zeph was preparing tea in the kitchen. "There's something different about you. You seem more yourself, if that makes sense." Maya looked through the kitchen doorway at Zeph, who was arranging cookies on a plate in a subtle spiral pattern that somehow made them look more appetizing. "I found my person," Maya said simply. "Not in a romantic way, but in every other way. That matters." Rebecca followed her gaze. "They really care about you, don't they?" Maya felt Zeph's contentment through their bond, the quiet joy they felt in performing small acts of service for someone they loved. "Yeah," she said, "they really do." As the months passed, Maya and Zeph settled into their new life together. They traveled sometimes, with Zeph showing Maya hidden patterns and famous landmarks and Maya teaching Zeph about human art and literature. They hosted dinner parties where Zeph's geometric food arrangements became legendary among their friends. Maya's writing career flourished, and Zeph's music students began winning competitions. They were building a life together that honored both their natures, while creating something entirely new. And on quiet evenings, when they sat together in their perfectly arranged living room, sharing thoughts and feelings through their permanent connection, Maya marveled at how a month of chaos had led to a lifetime of harmony. Sometimes the most extraordinary relationships really did come from the most unexpected circumstances.